meetings with staffers. It's one of the dumbest things you can do.
Two army tanks going up against each other. This is a whole different world, and we don't have somebody that can properly represent us. There's no question about that.
What do you make of all the talk that if Biden steps aside or is pushed out, that it would be Vice President Harris? Do you expect that much would change?
Well, I think that it will be her. I think they are very concerned about the vote if it's not her. They are very, very, I mean, they're gun shy. They don't want to do it any other way. I've actually come to believe that's what they're going to do. I think she's an ineffective person. She was in charge of the border. She's never been there. She didn't do a good job, and she hasn't done a job on a lot of things. So, but it would seem to me that from a political standpoint, that's who they're going with. They're not even talking about alternatives. And it seems that if he gets out for whatever reason, and I don't think he wants to get out, but if he gets out, it will be her. Interestingly, he's got a lot of power because he's got the delegates. You know, when you have the delegates, unless he says I'm getting out, they can't do anything to get him out other than the 25th Amendment. If they want to do it in a different route, it would be the 25th Amendment. But let's assume with not very much time left. You know, there's not much time left, and then we can straighten out our country. We'll make America great again, right? But there's not a lot of time left. But I think unless they use the 25th Amendment, which they'd use in a different sense, he has all the power. He has the delegates. He doesn't.
Bro, down to the 25th Amendment being a potential weapon against the sitting president. This is literally a rerun. It's the blue version of the same that we watched when Trump was president. I don't think that this is good for all of the moderates that the Brandon campaign has tried to captivate for the past 4 years, especially when the reason why they voted for Biden over Trump was not even ideological. It was because he was seen as like a coherent elder statesman. It is the only major difference in the eyes of those who do go out and vote between Trump and Biden. So now, him being an incredibly narcissistic, doddering old fool who's bringing his fail son into the White House, who's who's causing a state of panic within the Democratic Party that is disorganized, that makes, in the eyes of the moderates, that makes the Democratic Party look just as chaotic as the Republicans. Yeah, I like Hunter. Keep him away from the White House. What do you mean? What do you mean I thought you liked Hunter? Yeah, he's great. He's a funny figure, okay? But what are you talking about? Like, you're trying to win an election, dude. What are we doing here?
Doesn't have to get out. There's nothing they can do to get him out. So he'll get the nomination. He got the nomination, and then they'll have their meeting in Chicago, which, by the way, last week 117 people were shot and 17 people were killed. That was last weekend in Chicago. That's like a war zone. But they have their convention in Chicago, and they're obviously very proud of Chicago, and I love Chicago. I have investments in Chicago, but when you look at the crime in Chicago, when you look at what's gone wrong with Chicago, it's not a very good thing to be displaying right now.
I still think every election is about the future. It's about peace and prosperity. In this case, it would be about the border. It will be about the economy, law and order, the green agenda, America's role in the world. The one issue that pops almost at the top of every poll in the minds of Americans, well, really two: the border and the economy. Let's start with the border. We have nearly 11 million unvetted Joe Biden illegal immigrants in this country from nearly 180 countries, but many from countries that have terror ties, countries like Iran and Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Kazakhstan, with nearly 60,000 from China in just the last 18 months, tens of thousands from Russia. And I worry that this is now a clear and present danger for the country, and that the likelihood that terrorist cells are probably already here is very high. I don't think I'm wrong. I pray to God that I'm wrong. I don't believe I am. And the media, Democrats, have ignored the issue, and they've allowed it to happen. And Biden and Kamala Harris and Mayorkas have all said the border's closed and the border's secure, but they brag about ending the policies that you had in place when they got into power. I think a preventable problem. I'm worried about our national security like never before.
Deploying countermeasures.
Well, the one thing you haven't said tonight that you always say is that it's 100% certain that we're going to have a terror attack, and I agree with you on that. It's 100% certain. I mean, we're letting terrorists into our...
I pray I'm wrong.
We're letting terrorists into our country at a level that we've never seen before. Terrorists are coming in, and they're coming in, Sean, from mental...
What does that mean? Like, that implies that there's a level of terrorists that we were allowing into the country? Like, there was a level of terrorists that we were just, like, saying, yeah, come inside. I guess he means, like, 9/11. Like, Muhammad Atta. He's talking about Muhammad Atta, Chad. Like, what do you mean? Oh, it's an unprecedented level of terrorists that we're allowing into the country, as opposed to previous years where we were like, there was a precedented level of terrorists that we were just allowing into the country. Before and after 2001, there's never been a moment where domestic terror did not actually beat foreign terror on U.S. soil. Okay? That has never been the case. Post 9/11, that's the 1 year. Post 9/11, everybody went crazy mode over how much Islamic terror was occurring in America and in the Western world. Stats don't fly. 75% of all domestic terror that occurred on U.S. soil since then, and this was like back in 2016, have been at the hands of far-right anti-government extremists. That's the designation for it. Right-wing terrorists, white supremacist terrorists. That's it.
Institutions and insane asylums. They're coming in from prisons and jails from all over the world, not just South America. They're coming in from the Congo and Africa. They're coming in from every part of the world. And some of these parts are rough parts of the world. And they're pouring into our country as prisoners, as mental patients. They're coming into our country, and they're coming in also as terrorists. And this is poisoning our country. And nobody should have been subjected to this. They should never have been allowed to do this. There's nothing good that can come of it. And we're going to have to get these criminals, and a lot of them are criminals, and very high level, very bad criminals. We're going to get them out. We're going to have the largest deportation in our history, larger than the Eisenhower deportation. And we have no choice. I don't want to do that. But this man has destroyed our country. And I say in rallies, I'm doing a big one tomorrow at Doral in Miami. I say at rallies that you could take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country and put them together. They will not have done the destruction and damage as this man has done. He's been a horrible president, the worst president, frankly, the worst president in history by far. And by the way, Jimmy Carter's the happiest guy around, because Jimmy Carter now is saying, you know, I mean, he was like a genius compared to what Biden is. His administration was brilliant compared to the Biden administration. So it's a very, very sad time in our country.
Let me ask about the economy. I know that they said from the beginning that Biden's inflation, which they inherited.
Hating Jimmy Carter is such a funny, like, boomer trait. It's a classic boomer trait. Like, absolutely zero people under the age of 70 is bringing up Jimmy Carter as the worst president. You know what I mean? Classic.
1.4%. It's up over 20%. 25% of Americans say that they've had to forego meals. 60+% of Americans said that they're gulping water because of Joe Biden's economic policies and Biden inflation. How do you fix that, and how quickly do you think you can fix that?
Well, we have to fix it fast, and what they're doing is the illegal migrants that are pouring into our countries, many of them are staying in luxury hotels all over our country. They're being shipped up, you know, as we say now, every state is a border state, whether it's Idaho or Iowa or Ohio. It doesn't make any difference. They're all border, because they're pouring through our country. One of the stats that was incredible, I actually saw it on You First, was when they... It came out that we're actually flying them in. So it's not just a question of these people coming through totally unchecked and unvetted. They're flying tens of thousands of people into our country, migrants. And many of these people were not people that were welcome to stay in their countries. They're coming up here. And when I originally said, I said that they are not sending their finest. These are people that are coming from other countries, Sean.
I mean, he's not wrong. 52% of undocumented migrants in the United States are visa overstayers. So he's technically right. The problem is he makes it seem like they're getting shipped out here in like a military plane or something and just being dumped into Iowa. Okay? No, they're just visa overstayers like Elon Musk. Nobody is like coordinating this effort. And also, that is actually important to recognize because that means that those people, like we have some knowledge over their background. That means they got a visa, a tourist visa, but a visa nonetheless, or a student visa, or an H-1B visa, but a visa nonetheless, which means they're not just like totally, completely undocumented. So the idea that these criminals are pouring over the border wall all of a sudden becomes stupid. It's wildly saying stuff like they're invading Ohio, like who's buying this? Other people who are just as mentally ill. Who's buying it? People that live in Ohio that watch Fox News. So like most of Ohio, probably. I don't know. People are so stupid, bro. My dad, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly. Your dads. Those are the people that are watching and believing it. 20% of the U.S. population are boomers. By 2041, that percentage is going to be 1 to 2%. Thank God. Yeah, dude, we're not making it to 2041, though. That's the problem. Because the boomers are going to be our demise. The boomers also own like 75% of all wealth. This country is so goddamn cooked, brother. What are we talking about? Gen X Plus is a genuine demon. It is a parasitic force. It is one of the greatest L's. Like, call me Robert F. Kennedy Jr. the way I'm actually going to shit on modern medicine, okay? Modern medicine has gone too far. Maybe some people don't need the health care, okay? We kept too many alive. Look at the results. It's so bad, dude.
Where the president, whoever is running the country, including the dictators, they're sending them into our country. And if you look at Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. Their crime, think of it, down 72, and ours is up. And we're going to have a new form of crime because these people are just getting comfortable. They're just getting settled in. We're going to have a new form of crime, and it's called Biden migrant crime. And it's a new category. And it's a very serious category, and it might blow all of our crime out the window because, frankly, you could probably double. When I told you those numbers in Chicago with 17 people dying this weekend, think of it, over a weekend, over a 3-day period, 4-day period, you had over 100 people shot and 17 people dead, and that probably doesn't include the migrants, although I guarantee you there was...
Why would that not include the migrants? What are you talking about? The reason why it doesn't include the undocumented migrants is because they're significantly less likely to actually do crime, dumbass. Do you think that the police and the FBI are actually secretly conducting a conspiracy to cook the books, cook the numbers, and not report on casualties, fatalities, murders, when it's an undocumented migrant responsible for it? When an undocumented migrant does a crime, any crime, whether it be defending themselves against a police officer who's like bullying them, or, you know, something as gruesome and as violent as like a woman, you hear about it.
Opposing forces
you hear about it all the time. You hear about it for weeks on extent. The reason why, that is the reason why you think that there's actually a massive amount of undocumented migrant crime happening. Oh, this is like the COVID. The doctors are collaborating and conspiring to add additional fatalities to COVID numbers conspiracy over and over again. Yeah, dude. Now the cops are actually colluding. Like, I get why you would hate a doctor if you're a Republican. One, because if you live in like a rural enough town, you probably don't ever see a doctor. You probably only see the vet. And two, doctors are gay because they went to college. And they went to college more than the average person went to college. So they're double gay. They're trans. They're so gay, they're trans. Duh. Everybody knows that. So I understand why you would hate doctors, but I do not understand why you would think that our brave, beautiful law enforcement officers would be in on a crime. Dr. Physics, bruh. See? Point proven. There's doctors in the Hasanabi broadcast. That is the gayest thing you can do. Think about how woke you have to be to go to school for more than 4 years, okay? For more than 4 years, dude. That's like the woke indoctrination. You're gonna learn so many gay things, like an ecological disaster is imminent as a consequence of anthropogenic climate change. Like, I'm just saying those words is like basically the equivalent of sucking at least 3. Okay? I can't believe I just said this. Hassan's HRT dealer, thank you for the 5 tier 1 gifted subs. Allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour, which is not even at the top of the hour. I don't know why I did that. You said climate change is real because you are woke and gay? I did, exactly. You got me. I forgot that I don't think I ran the 3-minute ad break in the beginning of the hour. So I don't know what I'm doing, man. I literally just clipped this for you. Thank you, Himbo MP3, for the 5 gifted subs.
Alliance is thanks to the Secretary. He's a man of integrity and intellectual rigor, a calm temperament.
No, he said a man of intellectual rigor, or vigor, sorry. Well, I guess either, but probably vigor. People don't have to, you don't have to have the Biden-style brain. You don't have to have the Biden-style brain now to just like dunk on him, okay? What's happening? Hasanabi, he's such a cuck. Schumer clarified a statement on Biden running. Schumer said that it was kind of a fait accompli, and there wasn't much he could do. And if the senators thought Biden should get out, they should call the president. Anyway, let's finish this dumbass chirping at Sean Hannity getting sucked off.
Some of that in there too. We have a new form. It's this new category, and it's going to be very, very serious for a long time to come. And
dude, this is my favorite type of chatter. Just like literally all day, just saying the stupidest things. Like, you think Marx was gay?
Domination. This scenario is
I think Chatter's having an
Plan
aneurysm.
accordingly.
Hassan, is that a Mein Kampf book I see on your shelf? Why you have Mein Kampf book and Ram Ranch painting in the background? Oh my God.
3,
you changed my mind on NATO?
1.
That's crazy.
Capture all zones
Look at
and
this.
keep them secure.
CNN poll, +2 Republican. Wall Street Journal poll, +3 Republican. Monmouth
Allies
University
are
poll,
capturing
+3
Zone A.
Republican. Yeah, Joe Biden may be in
Allied
slightly worse
forces on
shape in
Zone
these
B.
particular polls, but the fact is, when Biden's down 4, 5, 6 points in these polls, you can only
is
run
ours.
so far ahead of Joe Biden at this particular point, at
Secure the
least
zone.
in the race for the House. It does seem like Republicans are ahead because Donald Trump is so far ahead.
What's the Senate landscape?
Yeah, what's the Senate landscape? I mean,
Hostiles
take a
on
look
Zone
here.
B.
GOP needs just a
Engage.
gain of 1 for control if Trump wins, and their path is extremely clear because their best chance for a pickup opportunity is in West Virginia. That's a very likely GOP win with Joe Manchin retiring. And the best Dem pickup chance, perhaps to
Zone
reverse
A
that,
in
so
danger.
the GOP doesn't gain a net gain of at least 1, is Texas, but that's still a likely GOP win. So the fact is, if Donald Trump wins this election, the race for the Senate, for all intents and purposes in my mind, is over.
One of the things I have heard from Democrats running for Congress is, okay, if President Biden's not doing well,
I hope you guys understand this is why people are freaking out. Like, this is why many people are like, we're cooked. We're cooked. It's so Jover. It's never been more Jover than it has before.
well, what we'll say is it makes it all that much more important to elect a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate. Maybe they can gain support that way. But does it work like that, split tickets anymore?
It really doesn't. Let's go back to 2000. Same party won president.
That was asking why I,
Zone is ours.
Hassan Hassan Abi Parker, a Turkish man, a Turkish American man, despise NATO.
Hostiles on
I
Zone
refer
B.
to you to the best D Marks video on NATO in Turkey. This will be a very clear and very easy way to understand why I, a Turkish man who is a
Bad luck,
leftist,
operator.
despise
Shake it
NATO.
off and apply your training.
Presidency and Congress. Yes, 5 times. No was just 1 time in 2012, the House that year. But the House popular vote that year actually went Democratic, even though Republicans maintained control of the House. So the fact is, 5 out of 6 times, that's not good math. And let's just take a look at the Senate here. Senate and presidential races in 2016 and 2020. States that voted the same way in both, 68. States that voted for a different party, just 1. That was Maine back in 2020. The fact is, Straight ticket voting is the way of the land these days. The idea that Democrats down ballot can somehow outrun Joe Biden to such a great extent to win control in the House or maintain control in the Senate, that seems to me to be an unlikely proposition.
Pretty stark.
Those are pretty clear numbers.
Thank you very much.
People yelling at Biden should stay in because Project 2075 should consider the risk they may be handing Republicans full control over the government.
Biden, but the fact of the matter is, you look at the national poll.
Down ballot effects of Biden loss are clear for Democrats, says Harry Anton. The House would likely be gone. GOP has opened up an edge on the generic ballot. The data they're covering is indicative that Biden isn't doing well. If he was, they would be saying so. Yes, the reason why they are running with some of the worst possible counters I've ever heard in any race so far, because no one that is this unpopular would like desperately stay in the race this far usually, unless they know something, I guess. In an incumbent with maxed out name recognition, it's not the same.
All capture zones in friendly hands. We have to get them out of our country. We don't want them out. They drop them out of their jails and prisons. We don't want them in our country. It's not sustainable by any country.
You know, it's amazing when you came down that escalator in 2015 and you said some are very good people that want a better life, and then there are going to be bad people and there'll be murder. It's unfolding. You know, look at Lincoln Riley on down, and young girls being broad daylight. This young girl in Texas that was killed, a mother of 5. Let me ask you one last question, if I may. And I know this was last minute. Thanks for calling in tonight. And I want to ask you about your VP choice. How soon do you think you'll be making that choice, number one? Number two, we keep reading that there is a short list, and on the short list, we hear names like Senator Rubio, Senator Tim Scott, Senator J.D. Vance, Governor Burgum.
Yes! Burgum maniacs, rise up! Burgum mission. Burgum mission. They mentioned Burgum. That's why I want to go to the RNC to defend Burgum.
Are those reports accurate? Are there other people maybe people aren't paying attention to? And when do you think you'll announce that?
Well, you know, we started off with a lot of people. We have a lot of good people, as they call it. We have a great bench in the Republican Party. The names that you mentioned, absolutely, they're under consideration. And I haven't made final decision, but I have some ideas as to where we're going, and a little bit, you know, we wanted to see what they're doing, to be honest, because, you know, it might make a difference. I don't know. I'm not sure that it would, but there are those that say Trump's waiting until he finds out what's going to happen with crooked Joe Biden, and we'll see what happens with Biden. But, you know, I think probably within the next week and a half, probably sometime. I'd love to do it during the convention. My people say that's a little complicated. You know, in the old days, they would announce the vice president during the convention. Today, with modern day technology, you can't do things that you could have done 50 years ago very easily. But probably a little before the convention, but not much. It could even be during the convention that we do it. I'd love to do it during the convention. I think it would be a very interesting build-up and important for the convention. It would make it even more exciting. It's going to be amazing in Milwaukee.
If you announced it right now on this show, I think it would make a lot of news. I'm just saying.
God, he's such a... Dude, you're such a made mother... Okay? Oh, I would make a lot of waves. Like, come on, please, sir. I suck hard enough.
Well, if I did it, I'd love to do it with you. But we'll be announcing soon, and I think everybody's going to be very, very happy. The choice will be very, very good. It's going to be a great vice president, meaning a person that can do a fantastic job.
Like, these guys constantly talk about how everything is woke and gay, and then he just, like, sucks Trump's entire... Dude. His asshole for, like, 18 minutes straight. This is unironically gayer than like actually just sucking on, you know what I mean? Just enjoying a nice fresh penis on a summer afternoon. Okay? This is way, way gayer than that. What are we doing here? Anyway, it'll be a great vice president. Won't betray me when I want to do a coup.
Mission success.
That's the funniest meme, by the way. Like, J.D. Vance, his pig, would absolutely betray him before he even did a coup. Like, the notion that J.D. Vance is like a loyal person to Donald Trump is great. It's a funny meme. You talking about penis like it's ice cream? Yeah, dude. I am.
as
Hold on.
president, because you always have to think of that first, and then second, somebody that helps you get elected, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mr. President.
Talking about it like it's a tasty treat, you know? Do you think Mike Lindell has a chance? No, but it is pretty funny that there were like genuinely a shit ton of chatters in here who
Friendly forces on
unironically
Zone B.
were making the claim that it was going to be
That's a win.
what's his face? Not Mike Lindell, the Mike Flynn. That was so funny, dude. That was awesome. Just more classic moments from the Hasanabe broadcast right there. And I just had to like walk people off this cliff, like, hey man, walk people off this ledge. Like, no, dude, you're pretty crazy. Here's why. Can you hit that Mike Lindell accent real quick? I miss it. That's right. It's Michael Lindell. I've dropped everything for Donald Trump, and by God, I don't feel even a little bit of remorse or shame. Everyone is saying that I gotten worse since I got off the crack cocaine, but turns out the machines are coming after. Turns out the machines are coming after our president, Donald Trump. That's Jesse Ventura. He does sound like Jesse Ventura. I'm Michael Pillow.
Will focus on the entire game, and larger segments could be devoted to the difficulty or just trivia other videos may miss. But when writing the show, he felt that his comedy was lacking. That's when, as per the credits, Greg Wilmot, Gerard's friend, came in to fill that role.
It played a little bit differently, but you know, I wasn't entirely sure.
Wait, what the hell are you doing?
What do you mean?
No, see, I do the reviews, you do the funny.
Welcome to my lair. I saw the way you floated through that door, but there's absolutely no way that you can... Unlucky shot, but never... Guys!
Gerard and Greg, having built up a hearty catalog of videos on normal boots, released videos day after day. These videos were released alongside other videos that fit the trends at the time, like top 10 videos or even just spin-off completionist videos where Greg was the host. Shortly after its launch, the series had already gotten enough notoriety that the developer of Super Meat Boy challenged the completionist to complete his game. And after over 18,000 deaths, Gerard did so in the following episode. That one video gamer, with its rapid releases and unique angle, made certain that it had a strong launch. By the end of January, less than a month of its existence, it already jumped up to nearly 4,000 subscribers. But as the pacing of uploads matched the actual production schedule of around one episode a week, the traction slowed and the growth became gradual. By the end of February, they had only gained 1,000 subscribers. Even so, this proved to Gerard that he had finally found his niche and was quick to embrace it. He could also be found streaming on Twitch, where he both played games and hosted a podcast-style show, and on an additional Let's Play-esque channel known as Super Beard Bros. Week after week of consistent uploads meant that just a year later, Gerard had solidified himself within the game analyst community. He was a social creator who had been collaborating with channels of similar size, like game reviewer Pro Jared, who was also in Normal Boots. Mixed in with these collaborations were newer channels that were also video game adjacent.
Hello, Gerard. Welcome to your bedroom.
Bad luck, operator. Shake it off and apply your
It's good to see you.
While Gerard was easily outgrown by his contemporaries, such as Game Theory or JonTron, his consistency, a key gene to success, was what carried his channel's growth. Momentous as this was, Gerard's life in mid-2013 was taking a turn for the worst.
I saw this woman go from saying, give me that fork, give me that knife, give me that spoon, to give me that gray, give me that blue, give me that silver, to even give me that thing. I want that thing to thing,
Capture zone
thing,
contested.
thing, to nothing.
Gerard's mother, 10 years after being diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, had passed away. Gerard and family, bearing witness to her slowly regressing state and to her eventual passing, decided to allow her memory to live on through what would be known as the Open Hand Foundation. This charity is a 501c3, and it would be basically family operated, with the Khalil family working hundreds of hours yearly to quote-unquote evaluate charities to donate to, among other responsibilities. Virtually all the expenses went to the yearly golf charity that the Open Hand Foundation was now sponsoring. Quote, applicant estimates that it will expend approximately $23,000 to cover its expenses for each tournament, resulting in a net profit of approximately $27,000. Unquote. In basic terms, the golf tournament was to happen annually. The proceeds would go to the Open Hand Foundation. The Open Hand Foundation would then distribute the money to whoever they saw fit. Gerard was a director and was in charge of marketing alongside the shared role of evaluating charities to donate to. It was also during this time that the Completionist was seeing a major upswing in traction. Though there were no breakout videos, his catalog as a whole was getting increased interest, enough to obtain an office.
Why does it look different in here? We have an office now. You have a desk. What are you talking? Holy crap, we have an office!
Unbeknownst to viewers, right as the channel was picking up in momentum, there was a major conflict between Gerard and Greg. The issues were never exactly specified, but there are implications that these conflicts were related to the direction of the show, or at least the background elements that eventually saw their friendship degrade. This came to a head February 2015, right after episode 120 of The Completionist.
It's hard for me to announce that Greg Wilmot will no longer be a part of The Completionist or anything that one video gamer related. Greg, thank you so much. And I'm sure everyone at home appreciates all the hard work that you've done for the past 4 years.
Gerard thanking Greg for his time here while simultaneously being the perpetrator of his departure infuriated Greg. To this, Greg tweeted out, quote, "We are no longer friends. I did not leave willingly. Don't mistake quote-unquote diplomacy for pure fabrication. The loss of friendship has hurt most." Unquote. But it did not end there. On Reddit, he gave a significantly long response. Quote, "The truth is, Gerard and I's friendship had been rough for the year prior to the falling out. We had been slowly drifting apart. I like to get my work done quickly and efficiently, then be on my way home. However, I feel I was removed due to our family friendship and punished by business I had no protection in. Gerard and I never worked out a contract between each other because we were best friends, and rather naively, I assumed we'd take care of each other in the end, as we did so many years prior." Unquote. The reactions to this were mostly of support. Though the comedic side of the show was now dead, the audience understanding that Gerard was continuing the show were happy enough with that. All over the internet, in relevant Completionist posts, there are comments stating that Greg leaving the show diminished the quality of it, but also comments stating that they did not like Greg at all. These can be found in the same spaces. Ultimately, the departure of Greg saw far different reactions. Regardless, the fact is, the month that Greg stopped appearing in episodes was the same month that Gerard's viewership stagnated. This is not to say that Gerard was not attempting to improve his content, because by the end of 2015, he had hired a team to help with production, though he was still trying to expand his craft beyond The Completionist. That's where Big Bad Bosses came in, his video game-themed boy band. This led to his most viewed video ever, but nothing else was working. To expand on this, Gerard is seeing how his contemporaries were expanding their craft from video games to popular media to just even food, wanted a piece of that pie. MWIII was a great example of this, as he was taking his theme of period videos and moving them onto film, which brought success overnight. Gerard sought to do the same, but his format was not enticing nor was it viable. MWIII could play with ideas and just research the elements around the related story. He takes a simple concept or happening in a movie and or show and expands on it greatly. But Gerard, carrying his completionist theme onto shows, had to watch all that was available. Being a completionist of a show just boils down to being a regular reviewer. This is to say that Gerard's gimmick could not be expanded beyond games, as it was not interesting, nor was it worth the time investment. This realization that he may be stuck as the completionist worried Gerard.
Oh boy, what is next for The Completionist? Well, I'll tell you what, I don't want to be completing games my entire life, because that just seems a little bit daunting and depressing. I've been working on a lot of big projects that aren't necessarily So focused in the realm of reviewing games, I think that because there's so many reviewers out there, it makes it hard to stand out.
Gerard's goals to expand beyond his game reviews are not just sourced from the fear of pigeonholing himself, as most creators hold this fear that their craft is one note and their talents only exist in a single format. Gerard also has a task of expanding because he still deeply wants to please his father.
I thrive off of doubt. I thrive on people telling me that you are fucking crazy.
Friendly forces on zone.
And my parents every day would tell me, whatever you do, go get a real job, give up on this pipe dream, go do something else. And I kept telling them,
This mission may not end well,
Gerard,
operator.
now in 2017, has built up quite the reputation. Not only is he liked by virtually all content creators in his sphere, companies like Nintendo indirectly endorsed Gerard by allowing him extremely high-level interviews. This year, his views were picking up a bit, but then there was also this massive change. Greg had to come back, not to the show, but to request all videos that included him, which was pretty much every completionist episode up to 120 be removed.
I am damned if I do remove these videos, possibly legally damned if I don't. So, it's with a heavy heart that I announce that I am going to be removing all 120 episodes of The Completionist.
Gerard allowed a month for viewers to archive videos before removing them. Whatever goodwill Greg had with the completionist community was drained via this request. And as much as this hurt Gerard's channel, it also opened up the new opportunity to re-review the games he already played in his completionist series, now as New Game Plus. It was possibly this, alongside continued traction, that reinvigorated his channel and bumped his viewership from hovering around 3 million a month to around 4 million a month. Also in 2017, Gerard's story on Story Collider aired. The topic was on his mother and FTD.
Usually, someone who's diagnosed with FTD lasts about 6.5 months. Mostly due to malnutrition, just not getting enough food, not eating enough, not being present in the moment.
Though Gerard was on a platform that emphasizes science and storytelling, Gerard was only focused on the latter. The average life expectancy, as seen on the AFTD website, is 7 to 13 years. It is practically universally understood that the life expectancy for those that have FTD is several years, and the leading cause of death is not malnutrition, though that does play a part. Still, it is nearly unanimous that the average life expectancy is around 7 years and the leading cause of death is pneumonia. It is clear that either Gerard got his facts severely wrong or he is lying on the spot to make himself look good.
My mom was a strong as hell woman, and she went down fighting every single step of the way. And more importantly, she is the longest lasting survivor to date with someone who's been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. They gave her 6 months. She said, screw you, I'm going to live 15 years.
Also a strong claim, considering that multiple sources state that people have lived up to 20 years with the disease. There is something fundamentally wrong with Gerard. The silver lining is that these statements here don't really affect anything. This story reached a limited audience, so Gerard's lies were hardly impactful. Though it does put into question why he was chosen as a director of the Open Hand Foundation while not being up to date with the facts around FTD. This spelled trouble when he further invested into the charity through his own fundraising campaign.
I want to do a big charity stream, and it is called Indieland. Yeah, it's called Indieland. This is a charity stream designed about indie games, for indie games, promoting indie games, but more importantly, why we love games.
While it was clear that Gerard was incompetent, at the very least, this event was beneficial for all parties. Though the goal was set at raising $25,000, Indieland raised much more than that.
Our final amount for Indieland, all the money tallied and everything together, was $55,102.
Celebrity Jamie Lee Curtis even got herself involved as her daughter was an employee of Gerard's. Everything was looking well for the completionist and its ventures.
I don't want to say this is the year of the completionist, because it's like a weird thing to say. Hashtag RIP year of Luigi, but this year has been our most successful year. It's just nonstop. We're gonna hit 1 million subscribers in a couple of weeks, and that's something special.
A unique boon that continued to aid the completionist was his clean reputation. This was absolutely necessary when it came to his most viewed videos, which were oftentimes Nintendo games. His top 2 non-music videos are on Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey and boast 4.2 million and 2.7 million views respectively. While it is not irregular for coverage of Nintendo games to perform well on YouTube, it is uncommon for Nintendo to work with creators. A benefit of this was that Gerard was able to receive games like Super Mario Odyssey early, and being that his gimmick is not so much reviewing the game, but achieving full completion, though the definition of completion can vary from game to game. This is to say that Gerard needs much more time than the average creator to release his video. The window of interest tends to close the further the video releases from the game's release date. And while it is somewhat common for review copies to be given out, Gerard's privilege extends beyond that realm. Like for a few of the creators, there was a master trainer named after him in a Pokemon game. That and Gerard was also being directly sponsored by Nintendo.
This video is sponsored and approved by Nintendo.
This felt necessary for Gerard's growing company that was looking to expand into the creator space by offering services to creators like managing merchandise sales. All of these aspects were reliant on Gerard's glowing reputation. That's why in 2019, when Pro Jared was going through a scandal involving heavy accusations that at the time were not challenged, Gerard, seeing as he collaborated with Jared in the past, made a tweet stating he did not condone Jared's actions and donated a combined total of $15,000 to 3 charities. Also attached were the receipts received from each individual charity. If he donated this much in response to a friend's scandal, how much would he theoretically donate in response to his own scandal? Luckily, Gerard's reputation was so solid that this question could practically only ever be asked in theory. In 2019, Gerard was proud to, quote, report that Indieland 2019's preliminary total earnings are $109,418, unquote. With now 19 employees allegedly working under the completionist company that won Video Entertainment, it was now more important than ever to continue this momentum. But 2020 YouTube had other plans.
At the beginning of this year in January, something changed on the YouTube front. YouTube algorithms. Surprise, surprise, right? Something changed. And my channel went from performing as it normally does to not performing as it normally does.
What Gerard is complaining about in this video was a dip in views starting January 2020, except that is false. Looking back at his social blade for the month of January 2020 shows that his channel did not only perform well, it also performed virtually the best it had ever per month at 6.4 million views. Looking through a social blade also shows that the single month that had only ever performed better was January of 2019. February 2020, however, does show a massive dip in views of nearly half, but that is only compared to January. When looking back, hovering around 4 million is highly common for his channel. This is not the only time Gerard talks about this dip. There was also this panel at PAX East 2020 where he believes he knows what caused it.
We're going to go ahead and scale back. There's 6 videos a month, and then when we do the 7th or 8th video, it's going to be a different video that has a different vibe to it, that is a lot more premium, that feels like the completionist, the twist. In me doing that, it's been 2 months. My channel has dropped 45% in views. And all I did was, and I just posted 2 videos. That's all that's changed.
What Gerard is pinning the blame on here is where he was typically uploading videos, he was uploading less than that to focus on quality and experimentation. The facts are that he uploaded 7 videos in January, except in this case, as shown, this month was his second best performing month despite missing 1 upload. But what about February? This month, the month that had shown the dip, which was not a dip because it was still in the same range of Gerard's typical views, but also the typical 8 videos. Gerard is either lying or is woefully unaware of his upload schedule. Perhaps he was thrown off by the 8th video uploaded on the 29th of February because it was a leap year. What this all means is that Gerard effectively uploaded a 24-minute video complaining about nothing. This also includes his complaints about the Persona 5 episode. According to How Long to Beat, the average completionist time of Persona 5, meaning all the trophies, would take approximately 173 hours. Gerard wanted to go above and beyond by collecting all the love interest gifts. The issue with this was that you can only get 1 love interest gift per run. With there being 10 unique love interests and an additional cutscene where you romance all 10 at the same time, that amounts to beating a rather large game 10 times.
I guess the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I don't want to do it anymore. I do not want to play this game anymore.
Though he claims he started playing it since it was released and was further challenged to complete it after Indie Land raised $100,000 in 2019. After 500 hours of gameplay, Gerard could not persist.
I do not want to play this game anymore.
So he issued a poll to his viewers asking what completion meant for this game. 91% stated that just getting all trophies is fine, which is what Gerard settled on when he released the video in May of 2020. This single video is bursting with issues surrounding time management, business sense, and fact-checking. To start, point 1 and 3 can be bundled into one major issue, which is time to beat a run. This is more or less correct, if only considering the first fresh run.
Average playthrough of Persona 5 is over 85 hours, with my very first one tracking on hard mode taking me 110 hours.
But with New Game Plus, if run on easy and skipping dialogue as Gerard said he was doing, it should, according to multiple different accounts, take 30 to 40 hours. With Gerard's initial run of 110 hours, it should have taken Gerard around those 500 hours to beat the game as he wanted. If we're being generous with numbers and assuming that Gerard is absolutely inefficient with his additional playthroughs and truly takes 85 hours per run, that would be around 1,000 hours. Yet he overshoots this with a number he could have only made up.
And I was starting to realize this episode would never get made, and I'd have to spend well over 1,200 hours to do this stupid task that I gave myself.
While these are all minute, rather unimportant lies, it does demonstrate once more that Gerard is a liar. And not only that, he has terrible business sense. Why even embark on such a large project with such an absurd self-placed challenge for a video that only got 1.3 million views? That places it at the 30th most viewed video, yet was a video that took arguably the longest to make. As for the rest of the year, Gerard continued his Indie Land charity and his viewership remained the same. January 2021, following the pattern of previous years, was where he peaked in overall monthly viewership, this time at 7.5 million views. A top 10 video about the top 10 worst achievements was responsible for this peak. This is the perfect example of a low-effort, high-performing video that does not sacrifice quality. It still has Gerard's personality that directly relates to the subject matter of the video. However, after this month, his viewership would see a true decline. Never again would he see beyond 5 million views. And after February, that was 4 million. Gerard continued to look elsewhere for whatever could build his empire.
And I think the next step for us is, my ultimate goal is I want to get into the video game industry, gearing the company, using the Completionist brand to get people excited for games and to help indie developers who otherwise don't have an audience, just give them a place to grow. That's a big reason why Indie Land's been so successful, is because we're taking indie developers who are usually these 1 to 8 people teams that have no funding.
Gerard at this time was experiencing difficulties all around. Newly added, or rather appropriately diagnosed as he has had since birth, was a syndrome that was reeling back with issues.
After 33 years of being diagnosed with spinal hemangioma, I was actually diagnosed with something called blue rubber Bleb-Nevis syndrome. Blue rubber Bleb-Nevis syndrome is a rare disorder that consists mainly of abnormal blood vessels affecting the skin or internal organs, usually the gastrointestinal tract. The disease is characterized by the presence of fluid-filled blisters, blebs, as visible circumscribed chronic lesions, nevis.
Gerard would need surgeries to quell these symptoms. While he had more than a fighting chance, the newest thing that he was involved in could at best be described as hopeless. Comcast was looking at the rising gaming content sphere and reduced that G4, an old defunct network famously focused on gaming before there was any competition, could compete in this industry today. The way they were going about this was greenlighting several shows that made G4 popular, such as X-Play and Attack of the Show. These would be hosted on YouTube and would sometimes be found live on Twitch. The only value this holds today would be in the original host to see where they are now, which they did, and it performed decently. But relaunching it as it was would be virtually impossible, as it would have to compete with long-established content creators with teams of just a few people that have cut into their niche audiences that also know how to prioritize profits versus production costs. G4, on the other hand, had its own studio, it was paying for the hosts that were willing to come back, and though reluctant, brought on Gerard. G4 was also utilizing their dead channels with dead subscribers. And so Gerard's reveal trailer got a measly 36,000 views. And Gus Johnson, another popular creator that was also part of the G4 team, was getting tens of thousands of views, where his main channel was getting anywhere from 1 million to 5 million views. Gerard's own G4 produced show, God of Work, where he plays a video game character set in an office space, was performing even worse. This is considering the amount of money that went to the production crew and the various actors and props involved. Even with Comcast's high-end slate of advertisers, this was a catastrophic failure brought on by the ignorance of a TV network that's traditional knowledge could not be translated into the online realm. Weekly, the budgets for the show would increase and decrease. There was no consistency in the studio, and changes in strategy of how to garner attention would happen on the fly. The max amount of viewers that the G4 stream got on Twitch was 64,000. In terms of television ratings, this is abhorrent. So its average viewership of 2,000 was a complete and utter failure. It did not help that the only way this content was reaching a larger audience was through controversial clips.
But maybe later we'll get to talk about Crypto Beefcakes, which is a project that you tie an NFT to a Discord account, and then if you're a positive influence in a community, it actually inflates the value of your NFT. So heaven forbid we have avatars and communities that encourage people to be kind and supportive to increase the value of something. But apparently, that's the thing that gets me canceled today, is caring about a new technology and community. Well, you're all welcome. That's my time on this one. Yeah, it's okay to hate. I'm gonna sleep fine tonight.
To put things in perspective, these few comments did not affect the end result. G4's relaunch was doomed to fail. What it did do was give many channels ample opportunity to pick out these moments as a reason why G4 failed. The most common clip by far involved Frosk, a caster seen in game competitions who was known to stir up controversy and contempt in the communities he was involved in. Gerard, pushing for a video lead for X-Play, was seeking out in Living Mun or Mortal Web. But what the producers decided on was Frost. Gerard details that they did not have time to chemistry test or see how all the hosts for X-Play interacted. So the hosts were unaware of how they would present certain topics or how to interact with each other on camera like friends would. There was also a looming annoyance with the comments that were flowing in. Some stated that Gerard ate Mortal Web and other derogatory comments that are normal and expected in the online space. But the host, like Frosk, typically having a line of separation and now having to deal with an active chat, took it upon herself to voice her frustration in an extremely poor fashion.
Every time G4 is brought up in various channels, even in this YouTube channel, we have the chat in front of us. I can see you. Without a doubt, there will be backlash because I'm not as bangable as the previous host. It's somehow Frost, and that's just obvious sexism. You don't need to explicitly objectify women or declare that you hate women to be sexist. Just go ahead and check out Thorne's latest meltdown on Twitter for some spark notes.
Frost's near 3-minute-long rant was condescending, aggressive, and overly generalizing by addressing the entire audience for the actions of a few. And those that made those comments no doubt got what they wanted, which was a reaction. This discourse, while not entirely against Frosk, was not very beneficial for G4. It shrouded them in controversy, though that still mattered very little because they stayed on their course of failure. They lasted about 1 year as their closure was announced on October 16th, 2022. Not only was this how the internet at large found out, it was also how Gerard and the remaining G4 team found out that they had lost their jobs. This news came shortly after the completion of second worst performing month in the past couple of years. 2022 also had the worst performing month where views for his channel dipped under 1 million. This was quickly turning around to be the worst year for the completionist and his company so far. 2023 was truly a different beast in terms of what it did to Gerard.
It really felt so personal. And at that same time that G4 exploded, I lost several sponsors. I was making that eShop video and I was like, people wouldn't touch me because of the controversy happening around that time. I had 2 employees quit / I had to fire one, not because I wanted to fire. I made it a goal as a business owner to never fire an employee. That was my number one promise to myself. I would never fire or get rid of an employee for any reason. And I was looking at my finances and going, oh, I don't have enough money to do this.
I think we could, in this situation, say let go.
Right.
I don't think you're fired.
Capture zone contested.
Let go, right.
To let go.
If what Gerard states is true, his finances are now very tight. Whatever side projects he had were apparently not enough to pick up the loss of ad revenue. Though Gerard was still endlessly experimenting with videos to no avail, he decided on a different type of video that was extremely risky when considering his company's financial state. With the announcement of the closure of the Wii U and 3DS eShop, Gerard and his employees brainstormed a new Mr. Beast-inspired idea where over the course of several months, their team would buy every single available game on the eShops for these consoles before the closure. While there were a few games they were not able to obtain due to those games pulling out early, they certainly downloaded the majority of them, costing them a total of $22,971. It is unknown how much this exactly cost in man-hours or other expenses related to the multi-month long production of this video. Within the video, there were also themes of preservation and that the consoles will be donated to the Video Game History Foundation. While it is committed to them, they were not taking it in likely, as in its current state, due to copyright law, there will be little utility. There was also some controversy about how the Video Game History Foundation operates in relation to Gerard, but the bigger issue at hand was the cost of the video itself. Gerard, over the course of several months, was able to finance this through sponsorships.
Today's video is brought to you by our sponsor. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by today's sponsor. Thank you and shout out to our sponsor.
But these sponsors were likely regular sponsors, not doing it directly to finance the eShop video. So $22,000 was spent on a video that currently sits at 1.4 million views. This means that it performed marginally better than its percent video. This was a massive loss that was likely not profitable. At this point, virtually everything was working against Gerard. Sponsors did not come easy. Nintendo was not even giving him review copies. His views kept on dipping, and though he continued to experiment, these videos were performing so poorly that they were hurting his channel. Gerard was not doing well.
You know, it's gonna sound weird. Like, I have 5 therapists. I genuinely have 5 therapists. Each one's for something different, right? I suffer from codependency and my never-ending ability to please people, to try and please my father and the legacy that he's built for us kids. I have a couples therapy for me and my partner. I have my own personal therapist. I have a business therapist to help with consultant and
that exists.
And the last therapist is just kind of like an overall therapist that interacts with all the other ones to really track my progress and go through it.
Gerard's insecurities, his want to please his father, his biggest weaknesses were gripping him harder now that his company and career he had built up over the past 10 years were all failing. As much as he reflects on the fall of G4 and the backlash it got, this was truly nothing in terms of scale for this upcoming scandal that he would be the center of. Everything over the past 10 years would be dredged up, and a reimagining of his character that was so conflicting, no one wanted to believe it was true. This is how a charity exposed a fraud.
And I just know, because of my track record of things like G4 exploding, me being friends with John Schwan when he was a racist, you know, I've been a part of, like, you know, pro-Jared. Like, pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me.
It is November of 2023. Carl Jobs, the content creator who typically covers video game speedrunners and their falsified runs, received an anonymous tip. This person alleges that the Open Hand Foundation, the charity run by the Khalil family that Gerard raises money for every year, has not donated a single cent. This is a very bold accusation, especially since Gerard has stated in the past exactly how the money is being used.
We are raising money for dementia research and treatment, more specifically helping families and those loved ones who've been affected by early onset dementia and who are learning how their lives are going to be changing forever. Raising money for dementia research. We're trying to help those who are affected by Alzheimer's, all types of dementia and beyond, specifically families who have just found out that a loved one has dementia. Essentially, we're raising money for dementia research and prevention, specifically for for families rather, who just found out that a loved one of theirs has been affected by dementia.
Gerard stated 3 different areas the money was going towards. It was going to research, preservation, to those affected. Gerard also took the bold leap of stating exactly where the money was going.
Currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners going into all of this.
Main funding partner, support partner. This is a very strong statement. Luckily, charities like Gerard's need to file what is called a 990 PF. These files are made publicly available and can be found on the IRS website. Better yet, they can also be found through ProPublica, which gets the documents on there faster. It is here that you can find the most recent 990pf from 2022. ProPublica also has a very user-friendly interface that charts revenue, expenses, and total assets. Immediately, it is apparent that the revenue is matching the total assets, and the total assets keep rising, which means none of the money has been donated. But then again, third-party website-generated charts are not always the most reliable. Checking the actual 990pfs show that for 2022, the gross revenue was $170,000. The net was $106,000. This was added to the pile, which at the end of the year was, quote, cash non-interest bearing $655,520, unquote. Looking further down, the foundation truly did not donate a single cent. It was just sitting there. To make matters worse, it was not even being invested. This means on top of the money not being donated, it was actually losing value over the years as it was sitting in a bank account not moving. In disbelief, Carl Jobst emailed the Open Hand Foundation. What he got back was an email from Jacques Khalil, a board member and brother of Gerard. Here he stated that, quote, we have been evaluating potential beneficiaries who align with our vision, entities that could use our funds efficiently and effectively without a substantial portion being diverted to administrative expenses, unquote. So it is again confirmed that the Open Hand Foundation, since its establishment in 2014, has not made a donation. Jacques also details that they donated body parts, alluding to donating their mother's body to help with research. And likely through the PBD West golf tournament, they donated money before they were an official charity. Though insufficient progress was being made, so they were deciding to vet charities, hence the lack of a donation. Closing the response was two ill-conceived notions. Firstly was that Jacques was stating that there are no irregularities or misuse of funds because the Department of Justice would intervene and that their financial activities are quote-unquote transparent. This is true to an extent. While the expenses are listed on the 990pfs, they are not itemized and or described very poorly and inconsistently. For example, on the 2022 filings, the major two expenses are golf fundraiser expenses and fundraising. What does fundraising allude to? Is that Indieland or is that a separate event? What about the 2021 filings? Well, these are even less clear, as even though more was spent in expenses this year, there are only two categories: dues and subscriptions and the blanket expenses. And in 2020, the expenses are only described as expenses. To the original point, this is not highly transparent, nor does being a 501c3 make one immune to deception or mismanagement. The second notion that closed the email was Jacques asking Carl if he knew of any good charities the foundation could donate to. This is a rather strange question, especially considering that the foundation documents demonstrate that every member of the board was responsible for seeking a charity to donate to. And to ask Carl Jobst is to insinuate that though they should have conducted hours upon hours of research, they could have somehow missed a charity for their very specific cause. This response only brought on more questions. Primarily, Carl asked about Gerard's statements that they were partnered with the UCSF, when in fact the Open Hand Foundation had still not donated anything, and on the Open Hand's website they were listed as a benefactor. The following email that Carl received was one of a far different tone. No, dear Carl, and no warm regards. The email opens with, quote, UCSF is acknowledged on our website as part of our historical contributions, unquote. This is misleading. Unmarked donations from the Khalil family are not the same as the official Open Hand Foundation charity, which has still not donated anything. Furthermore, Jacques, representing the Open Hand Foundation, doubles down aggressively by stating, quote, the insinuation of wrongdoing on the part of the Open Hand Foundation is both unwarranted and unfounded. We conduct our operations within the bounds of legal and ethical standards, and any implication to the contrary is baseless, unquote. Understanding how misleading the Open Hand Foundation is, Jacques closes the email, cutting communication. Quote, we consider the information provided in our statement as comprehensive and do not intend to issue further public comments on these matters, unquote. With it clear that the Open Hand Foundation was attempting to hide, Carl Jobst wanted to break this story, but he wanted to make sure it had a fair number of eyes on it. This is where some ordinary gamers, or Mutahar, comes in. Carl calls him up late at night, providing everything he's found out. Mutahar, unsure about the story, considering Gerard's superb reputation, propositions the idea to call Gerard through Discord and ask him about it.
So the timeline for it is like 2 p.m. I'm like, hey, Gerard, the completionist, are you ready for a call? He's like, yeah, give me a few hours. So we give him a few hours. In my head, I'm like, he's probably talking to a lawyer. He's not going to take this call. It's a lost cause. But surprise, Allah intervented. He was like, he's going to take the fucking call.
Did anyone tell
you were notified that the money was sitting there the whole time?
I knew it was sitting there
at a certain point, and that's what made me proactively go about it. Like,
do you know when that point was?
I was made aware in 2021 when the money hadn't moved yet, and that's what made me go, that's not fucking cool, and that's when I got personally involved to move it. And
did anyone?
2021, last year, 2022.
There are two takeaways from the start of the call. Gerard found out that the money had not been moved in 2022. This is despite him being on the board and him running an event for the foundation. This is already negligent on his part.
So the goal on the back end for my family that I've been told is like, we're just going to raise a bunch of money and then give it to one org and like make a bigger impact rather than just giving smaller donations that don't move the needle.
I mean, as of this week, we've been having conversations about moving it as early as today or tomorrow, just because the pressure I got from you guys, if I'm being quite honest.
To break this down, what Gerard is alluding to is that his family wanted to make a restricted donation. Restricted donations are donations that go to fund something very specific within an organization. They are restricted to being used in whatever way the donor specifies. There are multiple issues with this statement, as the Open Hand Foundation has not, nor Gerard, ever mentioned a restricted donation. Many donations can be restricted in small amounts. There is no need to stockpile money. And only now is the Open Hand Foundation going forward with a donation because of the pressure call jobs and who the hardware applying. If this was a goal all along, then why would the discovery of it influence it? As much as his call revealed how unaligned the foundation was, it also revealed more of the dynamic Gerard had with his family.
The last thing I want to do is ruin the legacy of my family, of my mom and her memory, especially because this is such a personal thing for the last 25 years of my life. You know, I'm not trying to be like, you guys want money to help me hide this? It's not this at all.
As far as off the record stuff is, I'm going to obviously keep, any mention of you and, your disagreements with your dad really out of it, because I know that's a very private, personal matter.
There is a deep conflict between Gerard and his family. There has always been this conflict, but being that whatever was being discussed was off the record and not in the publicly available recording of the call, it is not clear what this conflict was beyond wanting to donate the money sooner. Although throughout the years, Gerard has shown to be both fearful and approval-seeking of his father.
I am trying to complete something in my life. I am trying to fill a hole that's pretty large. A lot of that hole is my family and specifically the word legacy. So I have a one-man show called The Completionist Legacy, and the show is about my relationship with my father and how I am his living legacy, and that whether I like it or not, I am chasing this dragon that is to make him proud of me. My dad and I died. And you think my dad died. I want to build something that's going to be a legacy. I want to build something that will always remind people of the completionist, but won't necessarily be that.
What will become more and more apparent is Gerard finds that there is a mishandling of the Open Hand Foundation, but he always weighs his family above his morals. He always weighs his image above his morals. This insecurity of seeking approval from both his audience and family is his undoing. To that end, sections of the call would be construed as manipulation.
I'm just asking from a humanity perspective of, like, if I am the target of this, I have 20 mouths to feed, I have sponsors, I have a business, I'm trying to make video games, I'm trying to get out of content creation so I don't have to worry about YouTube anymore and do better things in the world. And I just know, because of my track record of things like G4 exploding, me being friends with John Tron when he was a racist, I've been a part of, Pro Jared, and I don't want to go home tonight and tell everyone, hey, there is a gigantic thing coming to claim my career, and you all have to close down and find somewhere else to do. I know this is shitty me to say this. I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, but this kind of stuff, I've been following your guys' stuff for years. The stuff with Billy Mitchell, Carl, the stuff that you've done, Ludo, with tons of content creators over the years. Like, there's no nuance to this. People are going to see this and they're going to immediately go, that Gerard guy who's been nice to a bunch of people actually isn't very nice overall. Fuck him. Even if I survive this somehow, even if it's like, people are like, well, whatever, that's how it is. It's going to take the passion out of what I do. People aren't going to trust me ever again. I'm not going to trust myself ever again. And I'm just going to walk away from all this. Like, this is like me being like, great, so I'm out. Not just a content creation or being an online personality. I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna disappear and start over and never talk to anyone ever again.
Gerard disconnected halfway through the call. This is what MWIII says before he's back.
Okay, I'll just say right now, there was definitely there was a lot of guilt tripping throughout that entire video, throughout that entire call. We absolutely have to cover this just for the fact that this is an actual piece of fraud. Like, this is legitimate fraud.
When Gerard reconnects after letting his woes on Carl and MWIII, he plays his hand and asks,
I take it that you guys are dead set on making pieces about this?
I mean, I'm definitely covering.
All right, well, I guess that's it. I guess that's all she wrote.
This was all happening behind the scenes. On November 12th, Gerard, aware of the coming storm, screamed, keenly aware of what was coming.
You guys ever wonder what I look like after I get destroyed by the internet for anything? I just do this as best I can. No, I just mean like if something bad happens and I'm like feeling sad.
The following day, MWIII and Carl Jobs released their videos.
Their website clearly states they support the UCSF, and they have a quote from David Kessler, the Dean of the UCSF School of Medicine, thanking them for their gift. But the interesting thing about David Kessler is that he was fired as the Dean of the UCSF School of Medicine in 2007, 7 years before OpenHand was even officially registered. If they have been looking for a beneficiary since 2014, why has Gerard been claiming they support organizations across the world, including the UCSF and the Alzheimer's Association?
We're raising money for dementia research in honor of my late mom, trying to help folks who've been impacted by dementia, working with organizations like USF, FTD Association of America, Alzheimer's Association of America, and so many more.
Why is he claiming the money is actually given to people who know how to use it? Now that they brought it up, if the filings do show an accurate account of what happened, I do think this is illegal and would be considered charity fraud. Generally, taking money by dishonest means is considered fraud. You just can't tell people to give you money under a false pretense. And you can't wait 10 years until you're caught before doing something with it either. In this case, OpenHand lied for many years saying that it was funding organizations. It wasn't. Even if all of the money is still there, the actions of OpenHand were unethical and almost certainly illegal. And as unfortunate as this situation is, it does need to be called out, and there do need to be repercussions.
Carl Jobs' video also goes over some of the call, the emails he received from Jock, and incorrectly states that the 990 PMs were not signed, which he later corrected. Though what the rest of the video presented was accurate, the reaction to it was initially somewhat negative. Friends of the completionist awaited his response, but a few were egregiously misreporting what was in the video. Pro Jared lying by stating that, quote, this is horseshit. They're both making a lot of assumptions and accusations without being able to actually prove anything. Almost like they're presenting the worst and trying to get views off of it. They didn't bother trying to reach out to Gerard about it. No due diligence, unquote. The irony was that it was apparent that both Carl and MWIII called Gerard, and Jared would have known this if he took 10 minutes to watch the video. MWIII addressed this and other unfounded criticism in his follow-up video 7 days later. Eventually, many creators were reacting to the ongoing events, coming to the same conclusions that there was something wrong going on. As the internet continued to wait for a response from Gerard, the most he received from Gerard was him stating that he was holding on as best he can, reacting to the continued coverage of the story as it was coming out, stating that there will be a statement soon, but this could not come soon enough. Patience had worn thin. The most anyone was receiving from Gerard by late November was his continued statements on how he was doing. And then on the 30th, Carl Jobs released his video going over a newly discovered alarming inconsistency.
And so we just, every year, we try to raise as much money as possible, and then we go work with, Alzheimer's Association of America, University of San Francisco, Association for FTD, which is what Alan had, FTD. So we've, worked with big and small organizations across the board.
It was now clear, Gerard, when talking about the Open Hand Foundation in 2023, knowing that the money was not being donated, was bold-faced lying to his audience and friends on multiple occasions. Well, that was not the discovery that shocked the internet.
Indieland isn't the only charity event that Open Hand runs. In fact, it's only half of the story. Open Hand also holds a charity golf tournament, which pulls in tens of thousands of dollars in sponsorships every year. And the interesting thing about the money the golf tournament raises is that it seems to disappear. The main way the PBD West Convenience Cup Challenge appears to raise money is via sponsorships. Brands will pay the Open Hand Foundation to appear on banners and signs throughout the golf course, along with having the opportunity to set up 10-cent stands and have their employees play in the tournament. The PBD West Cup even tells us what these sponsorships cost, showing that different tiers give different benefits.
The crux of this is that the revenue of the Open Hand Foundation kept increasing. The amount Indieland was publicly earning was the lion's share of the 990PF's revenue. More and more, when subtracting the amount Indieland earned, the golf tournament, which was growing in the years prior to the introduction of Indieland, was now seemingly decreasing. By using images of the yearly golf tournament, taking into account the posted cost of sponsorships and the participants via images of the event, the revenue on the filings was not matching up with how much should have been earned.
In the 2019 filing, Open Hand only raised $123,000, which means that somehow the Golf Cup now only raised $14,000. Every single year, the Syzygy Foundation, the charity founded by Jamie Lee Curtis, gives a grant to Open Hand. In 2021, they gave them $25,000. If you add these together, you get around $136,000. But shockingly, for the entire year of 2021, Open Hand only received $136,000, which means again, the Golf Cup hardly raised anything at all.
Budahar also did a lengthy breakdown of the subject. When given even generous earnings or the lack thereof, the numbers were still not adding up.
When you add in the grant, the Tiltify, you have maybe a few $1,000s, at best like 15 grand that 1 year to play around with to cover a shortfall in the books. But when you add the golf tournament, especially the golf tournament, you're always exceeding that revenue that's posted in the books, which again is bad. Where is the money? Why isn't all of it seemingly being reported? That's a question that I now have to ask.
While both Budahar and Carl were wanting a third-party investigation, what was wanted for most was an explanation. The filings only showed revenue, but not the sources. It is not itemized. The same goes for the expenses that are widely undescriptive and inconsistent with their descriptions year after year. And on the back end was the fear that the family was pocketing the money. There was a possibility that the money reported was not even there, that it was stolen. This was quelled when the AFTD, or the Association for Frontotemporal Degradation, announced they received $600,000 from the Open Hand Foundation in December. Maybe they rounded down and did not include the $55,000 that was reported in the 2020 990PFs that were still not up to date, meaning that they did not report on the 2023 golf tournament and Indieland. But perhaps this was to be donated at a later date for some tax or expense reason. What this did not resolve was the loss of value for the money just sitting stagnantly in a bank account. In this way, the donation is still less than what it could have been. Additionally, when Pro Jared was going through his own controversy, Gerard donated $15,000 on a whim when he was truly not involved at all. It is also possible that Gerard's company is dry, that it has lost so much money from its projects in 2023 that Gerard could not donate additional money if he wanted to. There was so much speculation that was meant to be silenced by a response which finally came December 9th, 2023.
To set the record straight, I want to make it 100% clear. At no point in the Foundation's history was there any criminal or financial fraud. None. A lot of folks have been saying that if I didn't do anything wrong, that I should have said something sooner, or that my conversation with the accusers was considered my full side of the story. But when there is allegation after allegation being made, it takes a long time to gather the evidence and facts to refute claims. This will be my only video response on this matter.
Though Gerard positions the delay of this video as a necessary requirement for its fact-finding, his video containing virtually no receipts, itemized breakdowns of the filings, nor clarification for his own lies shows how incompetent and ignorant he is. Though Gerard does make it quite explicit that he is not involved with the golf tournament.
My father runs an annual golf tournament, And this golf event hasn't always contained a charitable component, but has always been in dedication to my mother to bring awareness to FTD. I would often be present at these events, but beyond giving an occasional speech, I was not and still am not involved in any of the event planning. I want to stress that not a dollar raised from Indieland and its supporters was ever used on anything to personally benefit me, my family, or any of our companies.
This is a very strange statement that implies no wrongdoing on Indieland's part, yet negates to bring in the golf tournament into the conversation. What's more, Gerard did attempt to clarify some of the numbers, though the lack of receipts did not do him any favors.
In 2019, the foundation reported $123,816 in revenue.
This is correct. The 990 PS for 2019 does show that exact amount for the revenue.
But the accusers alleged that $14,000 is unaccounted for. Our books do reconcile, and these accusations are the result of bad math and missing information. The 2019 Indieland's net proceeds were $82,409.19.
Here's where the issue lies. In 2019, the year in question, Gerard stated on Twitter that the preliminary earnings from Indieland were $119,418. Preliminary earnings are net earnings. Yet somehow he states the net earnings for 2019 were actually $82,409. That is a $27,000 difference. But perhaps Gerard meant gross earnings. But when checking the 990 PS expenses, they were not $27,000 for 2019. They were reported as $13,000 in total for 2019.
And when combined with $31,371.55 in revenue from the golf tournament and $10,000 from a direct supporter, it adds up to $123,780.74.
Using Gerard's prior statements, the lack of reported expenses still doesn't add up, and Gerard still fails to provide a receipt even after this video came out. On the topic of expenses, Indieland throughout the years was making the bold statements alongside Gerard that all the money was going to the Open Hand Foundation. And even in Indieland 2023, he reiterated this.
Thank you, Bernie Link, for the Prime. As a reminder, all bits and subs, including Amazon Primes, go towards the charity as well. So it's all pass through, all going for a good cause.
Yet in his response video, he said this.
Income from Twitch subscriptions and bits, along with merchandise, have offset some of the production costs.
It is common for fundraisers to recoup the costs for events, though it is uncommon for fundraisers to claim all the money goes untouched, then turn around and use the money.
Gerard taking donations to pay for Indieland is not only him spending donations on himself, it's him paying for something that he directly benefits from. But besides, what he spends that money on is ultimately irrelevant. He said he would give that money to charity, but instead, he spent it. That's fraud, that's theft, that is embezzlement. And what makes this even worse is that he would then go and lie, trying to take credit for paying for everything himself.
So for those of you guys who don't know, we had a show last year, and it went great, but it was very expensive, and TOBG covered the cost of it, but we have kind of a rule of like, we want to make sure that like, as we do charity events, that we're not costing the charity organization or really anyone outside of our awesome sponsors. The guys at FlyQuest who've been so supportive, we want to make sure that the money that we do raise actually goes to charity and is spent properly.
Carl's video has 3 minutes of clips back-to-back of Gerard stating how all the money was going to charity. While some of these clips can be excused as Gerard states proceeds, which can mean net or gross income, it is clear that Gerard was misleading his audience and that he was recouping the cost for Indieland. Regardless, going forward, Gerard stated that he was stripping the charity aspect of Indieland. One of the few receipts he did provide was an autopsy report that none of the content creators requested.
When my mother passed away in 2013, we donated her brain and spinal cord to the same academics and doctors we worked with to further advance their research. There's a link in the description to her autopsy report that confirms her brain and spinal cord were both donated to science. This was an extremely personal decision for us. Because of my family's history, we had considered all legacy efforts that we had personally made to be a part of the Open Hand Foundation's history.
With as much confusion as there was surrounding the scandal, there are two things that are reinforced as fact in this video. Gerard is a liar, and even when apologizing, he inaccurately portrays what he's apologizing for.
Look, any way you say this, action needed to be taken. And to that point, I'm sorry. I'm disappointed that I was not more straightforward regarding the Foundation's timeline for making donations, and that I made statements potentially implying donations were made when they had not yet been.
Gerard was stating that these were applications, or something he suggested indirectly, but he directly stated,
currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners.
That was 2020. In the timeline, this is when Gerard alleges he did not know the money was not being donated. But then this was in 2023 when Gerard knew he was lying.
Boy with my dad in honor of my mom who had dementia. And so we just, every year, we try to raise as much money as possible, and then we go work with, Alzheimer's Association of America, University of San Francisco, Association for FTD, which is what my mom had, FTD. So we've worked with big and small organizations across the board, and he was like, it'd be really cool if we did a show all about raising money for people who are making huge headways. And
it gets worse and stranger. There's a tweet where Gerard states that he raises a total of $600,000 to $750,000 yearly for various charities. These unproven claims are entirely bizarre, but don't exist in a vacuum. And Gerard's continuous lies only provide a field to Carl Jobst and Mudahar's response videos.
Most of Gerard's video is him going over information unrelated to me, my videos, or my claims. He hardly addresses my concerns about the golf charity event money, essentially saying, we didn't take the money, trust me, bro. He provides no bank statements, no accounting, nothing. Apparently, we just have to take this proven liar at his word, which unfortunately, I'm not willing to do.
It literally requires you to take this man's word, which over the course of this whole investigation has shown you should do anything but take his word, without actual receipts.
The internet finding out that Gerard was a liar was certainly shocking, as was Gerard's threats.
These allegations were made by individuals who self-admittedly aren't even financial or legal professionals. These allegations are slanderous, and we believe we're done with selfish intent.
What a pathetic bitch.
Gerard closing the video in such a way only served to strengthen the disdain of him. Though this aggression is thought to have been pushed by his brother Jock, who was supposedly seen on Reddit, stating that he was the one going to push the lawsuit.
My brother was the aggressive jock named Jacques, who was 5'6", but jumping in the face of the biggest quarterback, headbutt first into them. So that was kind of, abrasive guy.
Those Reddit comments no longer exist, so beyond a screenshot, it is hard to prove that Jock was continuously instigating. As for the rest of the completionist Reddit, what was once a subreddit dedicated to the discussion of completionist episodes had turned into a place to follow the ongoing drama. A mod, exhausted with the ongoing discourse, made the announcement that any new posts related to the ongoing drama would be removed, going as far to interject their own selfish reasoning. Quote, these last several weeks have been very difficult on me. Having to sit by and watch people tear down a person that I have talked with personally multiple times, as well as someone who had been a cornerstone of my life for over 10 years now. Unquote. And there were attempts to shift the conversation back to the completionist episodes, but Redditors were not so enthusiastic to engage in such conversations. At this point, the mods just set the subreddit to private, and a newly erected completionist 2 that left free speech filled the void of its predecessor. It was here that a 5-minute long compilation of Gerard stating all the money was going to charity could be found. Additionally, it was discovered that Gerard was removing comments talking about the charity in his videos. In terms of lessening the backlash, this was hardly effective. Also in December, his character was removed from the indie game Sea of Stars, which there were memes made about. Mudahar released a call with Gerard, and various creators that either knew Gerard or of Gerard found his actions to be reprehensible. There was even a HardDrive.net article about Gerard 100%ing his career. But Gerard did not seem to think so. After a break following his response video, he released a new completionist video in January of 2024.
Before we start today's video, I want to recognize that I know that I have lost a lot of your trust at home. And I want to spend as much time as it will take to rebuild and re-earn your trust. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to put in the commitment, and I hope you give me a chance. So with that said, thank you for being here, and thanks for watching. Everyone who knows me knows that Super Mario RPG is one of my favorite games of all time.
That awkward transition between lightly addressing heavy allegations to then shifting to the completionist series did not win over viewers. This is made clear by the top comments he forgot to delete. On Reddit, there was a particular comment, or rather post, that was garnering attention. Greg Wilmot came back from the abyss to comment on the situation. Quote, I'm happy to say that my hands are entirely clean in this situation. This whole ordeal is one of the exact reasons why I had to remove all of my videos. I had a feeling that there would be some sort of controversy associated with that family after my departure, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Unquote. The other channels Gerard was involved in followed suit and announced they would be continuing without his involvement. Gerard has continued to upload videos despite them being poorly received. His social blade shows that his views have fallen to 500,000 a month, and his videos, though they have been rebranded to exclude his image from the thumbnails, cannot wipe away the stain of a serial liar. On a stream in March, he expands on where TOVG is now.
I've made the tough decision to close down the office. And so we're in the middle of closing operations and moving everything to my house. And so, you know, we're kind of trying to build like a completionist set, if you will, in my garage.
Where he once posted all the employees that worked on his videos in the description, now in current uploads, none are found. Though the charity money at minimum was donated, this scandal changed his image. Where Gerard was once viewed as a pillar of the community that had the purest intentions, has now been rebranded as a pathetic manipulator who will rely on a whim to enhance his appearance. Gerard is untrustworthy, irresponsible, and morally conflicted. And at most, Gerard is a fraud.
Thank you again for War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to play for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox using the link in the pinned comment or in the description of the video. There's also the massive bonus pack for new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months. Again, this is available across all platforms and includes multiple premium vehicles and in-game currency and more.
Friendly mortar strike on the way. The mission is complete. Good work.